Hey everyone, it's Carissa. Thanks for stopping by today. In this month's edition of the newsletter, I thought we would talk about some monochrome. I'm going to be doing some magenta monochrome, and I am going to be featuring this stamp set from Reverse Confetti. This is the Boho Vibes stamp set, and I love these sentiments, and I'm a sucker for feathers. But I also love that the dies cut out little areas within those stamped images as well. Now, in addition, I'll also be using this Drops cover panel from Reverse Confetti. This cover panel has a cut line around the edge, so if you place this on a piece of cardstock that's larger than an A2 size card, it will cut it down into an A2 sized cover panel for your card. Now, I'm going to be stamping a bunch of these images at once, and I've gone ahead and laid them out on my cardstock. I am using some Bristol Smooth cardstock today. I'm going to be doing a little bit of embossing on that. And the reason that I'm using Bristol Smooth is that I'm going to be doing some ink blending, and I just have better luck with ink blending when I use the Bristol Smooth. So I've gone ahead and stamped all of those images at once using my Mini Misty. I stamped them in Versamark ink, and now I'm adding some of the Wow Rich Pale Gold embossing powder, and I set that aside, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment on the bottom of this panel of vellum. So I've gone ahead and prepped the surface using my EK Success powder tool, and now I'm just lining up my stamp on the block. I'm inking it up with some Versamark ink, and once again, I'm going to add that Rich Pale Gold embossing powder from Wow. And the EK Success powder tool just prevents any extra embossing powder from sticking to areas that I don't want it to. On things like vellum, it's really important to pre-treat that surface so that you don't get stray embossing powder everywhere. So I'm heat setting that embossing powder with my heat tool. I've made sure that my heat tool is good and hot before I've taken it to my cardstock or my vellum panel, and then I have my images ready to go. Now for my monochrome today, I am going to be using these Hero Arts ink cubes. These are the floral collection, I believe, and you can see that there's a couple in here that you wouldn't maybe necessarily think of as a monochrome palette. I'm also going to be incorporating these ombre sequins from Hero Arts, so they're in some nice purple tones. And what I'm doing here is just taking my Tim Holtz mini ink blending tool and blending on that color. Now, Hero Arts inks were not necessarily made for blending, but you can get away with it in this small area. And also because I'm using that Bristol Smooth cardstock, that helps as well. So I'm kind of blending some darker colors towards the bottom of these leaves and then working it up. And once I got that color blended on there, I'm also going to grab a little bit off of my craft sheet here where I've pressed that ink onto the craft sheet, and I'm going to drop this in using a water brush, and I'm just intensifying some of those areas there. Now for my background, I'm going to be using these ink cubes as well, and I'm starting with this raspberry jam. Now a lot of you are going to think monochrome, and you're going to think that you have to use all one shade of purple. And I'm going to tell you that you're going to have better results if you use several different shades of the same color. So here I'm using a more like reddish purpley color in that raspberry jam. I am using the grape soda, which is a really true purple, and then I'm using that ultra pink. Now these have been color coordinated for you in that Hero Arts pack, and you can see how well those really blend together to create almost an ombre effect. But where an ombre would give you a light to dark, this is giving you several different tones within that same color family. And I've gone ahead, and what I did was, once I kind of swiped those ink pads onto the back of that vellum panel, I blended it out using a paper towel, and I left some of those like streak marks kind of visible because I want it to look like a dry brush effect. So you saw me there, I just cut out my images using the coordinating dies, and now I am using this cover panel, and I am going to use a Tim Holtz embossing diffuser to cut out just a portion of this cover panel on my vellum panel that I ink blended on the back of. So this is going to act as my top cutting pad. I'm going to place it in and kind of get it started, push it down and make sure I get it started, and then I can run it through my die cut machine. And what that's going to do is it's just going to cut out the area where that embossing diffuser was on my panel. So you can see I just have kind of a partial die cut there, and it gives just a little different look. I didn't want to cut through my sentiment, obviously, and this just adds a little texture to that panel. So now these arrows, I wanted to place them behind my feathers, but the feathers are a little bit large to do that. I wanted to kind of crisscross them. So I'm just cutting my arrows in half, and then I am going to position them kind of at angles like I had envisioned. This is just going to extend or look like it's extending those arrows. Once I put the feathers over the top, you're not even going to see that they're cut apart, and you're just going to think that those arrows were naturally that long. And this is a great thing to do with flower stems or arrows, or even if you want to kind of put something behind a sentiment panel or something like that, you can kind of cut it and make it appear longer than what it really is. Now behind these feathers, I wanted to add a little bit of gold thread. I know maybe I'm overusing the gold thread right now, but just think, I have not used any gold glitter on this, so I had to get my gold fix somewhere, right? So I just wrapped it around my fingers several times. I kind of temporarily adhered it with a little bit of ATG. And now I'm adhering my feathers onto this panel using some foam adhesive that I've just pre-positioned on the back. And that just makes it easy when I go to put these all together. So I'm layering this one on top of the other two. And now I am kind of just adding a little bit of glue there to add a bow on top that I've tied with my gold thread as well. And it's best if you can put that aside and maybe put like a heavy stamp block or something on it. I didn't do that, and I ended up having to go back and re-adhere it later. For my card base today, I am using the Essentials by Ellen Linen cardstock. I cut it to 4 1/4 by 11 and then scored it at 5 1/2 to create my top folding A2 size card. And then I'm going to hide some foam adhesive behind the elements that I placed on the front of this vellum panel to adhere this vellum panel onto the card base. And I did end up cutting that vellum panel down just slightly to leave a little bit of a white border around that. Now this monochrome, as you can see, has several different colors or several different tones of the same color. That gives it a little depth and dimension rather than it falling flat. And I also think that blending the ink onto the background gave it some different texture and a little bit of variety rather than using a solid cardstock. And then I also took several different tones of those purple sequins from that Hero Art sequin pack, and I adhered them all over that card front as well. And I just used a little multi-medium in the matte finish to do that. Now I wanted to make sure that those arrows would stay down really good and tight, so I did go ahead and squirt some matte medium behind those as well. And that finishes off my card for today. I really hope you enjoyed this project, kind of showing a monochromatic style. Remember, with monochromatic, you can throw in some neutrals. I decided to throw in a little bit of white and gold as my neutrals. But overall, I kept all of the colors within that magenta family, and those Hero Arts inks really helped me to coordinate those easily. As always, I will have links to all the products used in this project in the description below, as well as over at the InTouch blog where you can see more still shots and find more information. Please visit us over there. All of these supplies are available for purchase at ellenhudson.com. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.